Wake the fuck up, Patronusgold. We got a game to review.
Keanu? Is that you?
What? No, it's me, Supernova. You called me like 20 minutes ago, dude, and told me I needed to get here ASAP to review Cyberpunk 2077 with you.
Oh shit, you're right. I must have fallen asleep. I didn't even know where to start with this game.
Give yourself time. Ideas will come. Life will shake you, roll you, maybe embrace you. The review will find you.
Do you just speak in butchered Silverhand quotes?
That's Johnny Silvercock to you.
Player's perspective, y'all should check this. We review games, that's our objective.
Big PP, small PP, these people need me. Should you get this game only with our guarantee? Check with us before your shopping spree.
Value critique and criticism without any bias or favoritism. Hey yo, this PP ain't no micro. Without further ado, let's get into the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Player's Perspective, the Unholy Trinity's game review series. This episode is more than a demonstration of my new mic, but an investigation and non-spoiler review of Cyberpunk 2077, to see if Night City is the city of endless opportunities where legends are born. Speaking of legends, allow me to introduce Supernova, who will be offering a different player's perspective as a PC gamer, whereas I'll be conducting my review based on the base PS4 version.
Sup gamers, Supernova here.
Apologies for the delayed review, but I guess that's quite fitting for a game 7 years in development with many delays along the way, and possibly still needing more time. I ended up spending 80 hours in Night City since launch day, with most of the side quests and all the gigs completed and all the endings, bar the secret one, completed along the Nomad path. I would also like to address some basic criticisms before I properly dive into the review. As we all know, the game is really buggy and undercooked. I won't go in depth into these issues, but this will still factor into the final verdict. At launch, the base PS4 version was unplayable until update 1.4, and even with this update, it's still severely downgraded. I also disapprove heavily of the restrictions on console reviews and inability to show game footage prior to the game launch, but these tactics that CD Projekt Red incorporated will not be reflected in my final verdict of the game.
On the PC side, I also began playing at launch with my GPU set to be well capable of handling Cyberpunk on no settings at 60 FPS. But upon trying it, I had trouble maintaining 40 to 50 FPS rate.
As quite the diversion from the formula established in the Witcher series, I was quite intrigued to see if they would be able to pull off the first-person GTA-esque experience they seem set out to create in the gameplay. Honestly, the moment-to-moment gameplay is quite fun, though not without its glaring issues. The first-person view was a fantastic idea and created a great sense of immersion, also working well with its gunplay. The guns in this game are great in my opinion, each of them feeling quite distinct, as well as being given different options to mod and attachments. Shooting feels decently satisfying in my opinion once you start to equip perks and find powerful weapons, though it takes the game a while to demonstrate this.
I agree. My shooting combat was quite smooth, and you know what I always say? If you're gonna kill, kill. If you're gonna burn it all to the ground, then let it burn.
Unfortunately, melee combat is an absolute mess. Terrible button mapping combined with clunky and inaccurate movements and hitting ruin this part of the gameplay, especially with it being tied to certain boxing side quests that are absolutely reprehensible.
It's like what I always say. Swap fists for mantis blades. Live a katana wielding fantasy. Whatever. But at the end of it all, it's the code that defines a melee combat. Though I do love the mantis blades.
Apart from combat, another activity V engages in is driving, and once again I really like the variety in each vehicle, crafted lovingly by the developers. The driving is serviceable but not great, far too slippery for my taste. Also, the minuscule minimap doesn't help with this issue, making tight turns quite challenging. At least they allow you to utilize a third-person camera during this. Character customization is also hit and miss. The character customizer at the start of the game has a variety of options in certain regards, such as hairstyle but limited in others. Only 2 dick sizes? I expected a slider and a way to equip a little gun down there. And disappointingly, you rarely see a naked V, no matter the work you put into crafting V's, junk. Clothing suffers too, with some great designs, yet stats specifically tied to each piece. I guess they were unable to incorporate a system where a clothing item's stats could be applied to a more visually appealing design. A strength of the customization system is the attribute and character perks, which is decently quick in progression and encourages builds of different types, though it does lean in favor of certain attributes to make locations of the world more accessible. Also, the crafting system tied to the inventory and the attributes is underwhelming, a way to make eddies but a painstakingly slow and complex process. Eddies are also a big issue I had with the game, with the currency taking forever to earn and items being way too overpriced. After doing basically all of the side quests and gigs, I'm still unable to afford all the vehicles in the game. Overall, the gameplay shined with gunplay and the ability to create builds and a handcrafted feel of the clothing, weapons, and vehicles, but it is held back by shit melee combat, weak driving, limited customization, and a terrible economy.
NC's Legends! Know where you'll find most of them? The graveyard!
This being an RPG, I went into this game expecting a banger of a story. To be honest, I haven't played many RPGs and I was hoping this could get me into them. This doesn't quite reach my expectations in terms of player choice, often choosing more linear paths to tell the story. This isn't necessarily a negative, as basically all of the scripted moments in the main story still fit with my character. Choices in the story are hit or miss, with some being more illusions of choice, especially in minor conversational dialogue, but it does have you make some difficult choices. These major decisions can lead to 6 different endings, and I recommend you try all of them. The main story is intriguing, with a plot that grapples with concepts around identity, corruption, and deciding whether to live in peace as Mr. Nobody or go down for old times in a blaze of glory. It has several standout characters such as Jackie, and of course, Johnny Silverhand.
I think you mean Silvercock.
No, I mean Silverhand, and most characters have memorable dialogue and great acting, with the standout being Keanu Reeves. However, I personally found V to be quite generic, with some dialogue not quite matching my choices. The main story isn't very long, at around 20 hours, and most of the development for these great characters doesn't take place within this time frame. The game relies on the completion of side quests to really flesh out these characters, and these timed missions are often really good. On the other hand, I found some general side quests and gigs to be quite repetitive, and some absolute bullshit. Beat on the brat. The only reason to do some of these are the eddies, which, like I said, are hard to come by. A part of this story that ties into the character customization is the life paths. These backstories include an intro mission and maybe 1 or 2 exclusive side missions. These don't really further the story and only add some minor dialogue in my opinion. I think it's possibly all comes down to the cut content, which is a huge detriment, with segments such as Jackie's story in the beginning feeling way too short. I expect some cut content to return in the announced DLC, but I don't think it should have been removed in the first place.
However, the prologues did help establish the world, certain characters, lore, and introduce the choices that I felt mattered.
Overall, the story is strong, with great characters played by good actors, good dialogue, and some hard choices, a focus on linear segments, heightening the drama, and side quests that help flesh out the characters. The story does suffer from a short length due to cut content, some trash and repetitive side contents, and a somewhat bland protagonist. Night City is a sight to behold.
Just like my impressive cock.
Yeah, sure. And it is quite clear that the developers put a lot of effort into making the City of Dreams come alive. Each area of the city feels distinct and the map is large, but not too large.
Just like my impressive cock.
It's a fun time to explore and really immerse yourself in the world of Cyberpunk. The city feels lived in, and there is an incredible amount of attention to detail. However, on PS4 it was hard to see any of the hard work in the 720p resolution, with NPCs turned down to the minimum. NPCs in general are not all that great anyway, with incompetent police AI and brain-dead civilians that are barely interactable. Traffic in the game also makes no sense, with V's ability to park and calmly hold up an entire highway without a single complaint from any of the NPCs. Music also factors into the world building, with some great tunes to listen to while doing missions, though there never seemed to be enough tracks for each radio station. Though I really can't complain, I'm still enjoying my 100th listen to of chipping in. Overall, world design is spectacular, and it is quite evident that everyone who worked on it loved and cared for its creation, with impressive original music to accompany the world. However, terrible AI and NPCs and the shitty PS4 port do quite a bit of damage to it.
The bugs on PC also hindered the experience, though it didn't make Night City any less fun to explore and hunt for Easter eggs.
Now, moving on to the final verdicts. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that had great potential but ultimately didn't live up to the hype. The story and characters and the love and care shown through the world design are the highlight of the experience, but an abundance of bugs and heavily downgraded PS4 port, cut content, and strange gameplay decisions negatively affect the game.
I agree, as I too enjoyed the game quite a bit but suffered from the bugs.
I am able to recommend this game for PC users, but strongly suggest that PS4 users wait for the next few patches. As reviewed after the 1.6 patch, the Unholy Trinity gives Cyberpunk 2077 a strong 7 out of 10.
Wake the fuck up, Patronusgold.
What is it? I finished the review.
You forgot to end the video. In 2077, what makes someone a criminal? Getting caught for not liking this video and not subscribing to the Unholy Trinity. Especially not ringing that notification bell as well.
Yeah, what he said. And once again, thank you Supernova for your contribution, and we'll see the rest of you in the next episode of Player's Perspective. Bye.